Hey, everybody, happy Friday. Welcome back to the Lefty G Show. Tonight's talking topics that we're going to be getting into is the current fight over gun laws in the Libby-Lou-Hoo blue state of Illinois. Here we go. Stick around.
Break 'em on. This is America First Radio. Patriots, get your ears on because we're blowing the speakers out.
Lefty G. It is time for the Lefty G Show. The only show to get you right. Get ready to get right with Lefty. Your voice taking you down Freedom Road. Now, here's your host, Lefty G.
Let's hit the fucking road!
All right, again, happy Friday and welcome back to the show. Tonight's talking topics here are going to be, again, we're going to be discussing the current fight that's happening in Springfield over the fight over gun laws that are happening here in Illinois. But before we get into that, here it is, the end of our first week of our inaugural show, or inaugural week, I'd rather say. And I want to thank everybody for being part of the Lefty G experience and for supporting me and supporting this the show and all the great comments that I've heard from so many of you. I do appreciate it, and I hope you're going to be back next week when we kick this thing off again on Monday. But for now, happy Friday to all you awesome people, and I hope you sit back and grab your favorite beverage and have a listen and roll into the weekend and have a great time. Also, I want to throw out there, this is going to be a shorter show today, so it's going to be a little bit of a shotgun wedding. But also, if there's any comments that you guys have on the show or anything you'd like to have me discuss or hear about on the show or have me research, leave it in the show notes here below on this one or in any of the other previous shows. And I'll work I'll work harder than an ugly stripper to see that I get those things put out for you. But let's get into it. Gun laws, and more gun laws. Illinois. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Yes, Illinois, we're talking about the fight over the gun laws in the old land of Lincoln. Specifically, this is an ongoing fight regarding the assault weapon ban, or, attempt to ban them by the Libby-Lou-Hoos in the state of Illinois. Look, we've heard all this mindless rhetoric before, right? Okay, guns kill people. Yeah, sure. I guess that's the same way that spoons and forks make people fat or pencils misspell words. And also, do me a favor. Check the show notes below for a particular link. Apparently, folks, you can't make this up. Marshmallows kill people. Maybe we need a ban on assault marshmallows. They apparently kill people too. So go ahead and check out that link. So tonight, we're going to be going into and discussing the Illinois' absolutely grotesque and unconstitutional assault weapon ban. Just last week, Illinois had this big trial last week down in Springfield. It was concluded somewhere around the 20th. It appears that Illinois' assault weapon ban is about to be overturned again. There's been about, I want to say, three or four consolidated challenges in the state of Illinois regarding this tussle over the right to bear arms. This is what they're calling the Protect Illinois Community Act, which is better known as your unconstitutional assault weapon and magazine ban, which just went to trial down in Springfield. And again, the trial apparently did conclude on or about September 20th. So just last week or thereabouts, right? So here we are. We're going to be discussing on tonight's show some highlights and some lowlights of the trial itself. There are about, I want to say, multiple different challenges outside of the Second Amendment, that I want to discuss here too. And some of those things that are outside of the Second Amendment were, the challenge to the Fifth Amendment on self-incrimination, which I thought, could have had some legs, but the trial court did not, and they were granted, they granted it as a summary and a judgment and chucked it out on behalf of the state of Illinois. There was also another claim that was brought under the Fourth Amendment on unreasonable search and seizure that was also chucked out by the courts in the same fashion. So tonight we're going to be really focusing on how this applies to your right to bear arms and the Second Amendment and all that stuff. So going back to the trial here. So all of these plaintiffs went forward on purely on a Second Amendment and 14th Amendment analysis, right? Now, I know many of us are freaked out that this judge, that he's already throwing out challenges on this matter, but let us not forget that this guy's name is Judge McGlynn, who previously had ruled that this law is in fact unconstitutional. So Judge McGlynn is on our side. Judge McGlynn's order had been previously trashed by the Seventh Circuit, who swooped in and took it over and immediately stayed the injunction. And ultimately, a full on-deck panel of the state of Illinois defended this, the full-on panel of the Seventh Circuit ruled that America's most popular rifle is not even protected by the Second Amendment. Now, the state of Illinois defended this ban in exactly the same fashion one would think, including, trotting out all of the horror stories about the evils of guns and all that good stuff. Because when you don't have facts and you don't have empirical evidence or the law or the Constitution on your side, really about the only thing you can do is trot out all these horror stories on the evils of guns. And so that's exactly what they did. So some of their arguments included that the AR-15 is essentially, tantamount to the M16, because they look pretty much the same. And for that reason, since we can regulate the M16, we should be able to do so with the AR-15. Of course, they were pounding and pounding over and over again on the ruling by the Seventh Circuit that these weapons are more appropriate for military usage, and that the Second Amendment didn't even protect them whatsoever. Now, I know that they may seem like it is what they call persuasive authority, but that was the ruling that was on the injunctive relief, and therefore this Judge McGlynn guy is not bound by it. And let us also remember that after the Seventh Circuit issued this now infamous rule, Judge McGlynn again stood up for the Second Amendment in defense of this original ruling. So bravo to you, Judge McGlynn. Thank you. Now, let's get into the state of Illinois. They had also trotted out many of the other usual arguments, which included, the weapon has a pistol grip, which makes it easier and more accurate to fire, which makes it more deadly. Or they also talked about the high-capacity magazines. This makes it easier to shoot. Therefore, again, more deadly. And they had the same with the barrel shroud and all this kind of stuff, and on and on and on and on and on. The plaintiffs did a very nice job of pointing out that what is being talked about here is that it makes the shooter more accurate and proficient in the use of said weapon, which means it would also equate to a better equipping it for self-defense. Now, ultimately, the most offensive argument in a long list of offensive arguments was the state of Illinois. Here's what they argued. They said, what do you need? Focus in on that word need. What do you need this type of weapon for? I mean, they kept saying, you don't need one of these firearms. Need. Well, I didn't get the fucking memo that said we as Americans need to justify our rights based on needs. I mean, let's walk that word need down here for a little bit, or needs. Does anyone need to be asked why you need to go to church on Sundays? Does anyone ever ask you why you need to be able to speak freely? Does anyone ever ask you why you need to be free from unlawful search and seizure? Does anyone ever ask you why you need to be free from having to incriminate yourself? Does anyone ever ask you why you need to be free from cruel and unusual punishment? No, because we don't base our rights on needs. But even more offensive then is even after the state of Illinois said, well, why do you need that for? All of that rhetoric. They then argued that the state of Illinois knows better than you, our citizens, that they know better than you what you yourself need. The state of Illinois wants to be the ones that determine what your needs really are. Let that sink in for a second. That's a greater problem even in the United States. So, whatever you believe or feel or think, it is absolutely irrelevant to the equation of how you want to protect yourself and your life. So says the state of Illinois. There it is. I mean, let me say that again. Whatever you believe or feel or think, it is absolutely irrelevant to the equation of how you want to protect yourself and your life. So says the state of Illinois. Very powerful point I want everybody here to put in their brains. The question here is this, folks, and it's relatively simple. Where is the court going to ultimately lean on this case? Say after closing arguments. Judge McGlynn, this judge that I'm a fan of, spoke on some dark chapters in American history, which violence was inflicted upon racial minority groups, and commented on how these attacks may have been or never occurred should the victims have been armed. Should the victims have been able to defend themselves, these instances may have never occurred. And in fact, Judge McGlynn had correctly commented that confronting evil, and I'm quoting this, that confronting evil is essentially ingrained in the moral fabric of who we are as a people and a nation. Close unquote. So, for all of those reasons, what is the prediction here on this matter? Well, I mean, it can be summed up in 4 words. I'll have to say win, stay, appeal, and lose. So what do I mean by all that? I would say win. I believe that Judge McGlynn is going to find this law unconstitutional once again. So there's going to be the win. The stay that comes into it, I think the state of Illinois will step in and appeal that the Seventh Circuit will stay with an injunction. Then there will be a formal appeal, that's the third one, by the state of Illinois, which may be argued first to what they're saying is going to be a 3-judge panel, and ultimately to a full-on panel of the Seventh Circuit Court. And having already seen what the Seventh Circuit Court has already done in the platform of firearms and applicability of the Second Amendment to it, that's why I predict that this thing will ultimately be a loss. That's it. So again, I think it's going to be win, stay, appeal, lose. And I think that's how it's going to go. Now, this may all stall out because, when I was kind of looking into this, I came across a case out of the state of Maryland, and that is really sitting right now before the United States Supreme Court. The case is known as Bianchi versus Brown. Go ahead and look it up. And on a petition right now, and if the U.S. Supreme Court decides to accept review of that, this case here in Illinois will likely be stayed pending the outcome. So, folks, please take a moment to read the Second Amendment as written and pay attention to the verbiage and the context of how it was written. Then, read it again. Then, ask yourself, why would the government want an unarmed populace? And then ask yourself why we need to be armed to the fucking teeth. Let me give you 2 quotes pertaining to the right to bear arms. The first one is by Samuel Adams. He said, and I quote, "The Constitution shall never be construed to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceful citizens from keeping their own arms." That was Samuel Adams, Massachusetts Ratifying Convention, 1788. Now, the next one comes from somebody by the name of Joseph Story. This is referenced out of the commentaries of the Constitution of the United States, circa 1833. He said, and I quote, "The right of the citizens to keep and bear arms has justly been considered as the palladium of the liberties of the Republic, since it offers a strong moral check against the usurpation and arbitrary power of rulers. It will generally, even if these are succeeded in full the first instance, enable the people to resist and triumph over them." Ask yourself, who is Joseph Story talking about? Who is them? Remember that. The fight over the right to bear arms, which is our absolute right, is nothing new. It went on then, it's going on now, and it'll go on after you and I are gone. But let us all remember that being a responsible and lawful gun owner is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance you may find yourself in. Thanks again for a great week. I do appreciate it. And if you like what you hear on this show, then you're probably obviously a very smart person and know what you're facing. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell button to continue being part of the Lefty G experience. And I want to thank you very much again for being with me today, tonight, and this whole week. And remember, peace through strength. Good night.